Welcome to the Earn Interest Podcast, the business school for the culture. This is your host, Pedro Moore, serial entrepreneur and venture capitalist. This is the podcast for commentary, conversation, and practical tips on all things business, startups, and entrepreneurship for those looking to chase after their dreams. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 5 of Earn Interest. This is your host, Pedro Moore, serial entrepreneur and venture capitalist. Today, we'll be talking about how credit gurus are actually killing our community. Also, we're going to have a topic point about the UFC and WWE merger. With me today, I have my executive producer, Dion Ringo. How you doing, man?
What up, though? I'm excited to talk about this. I didn't even know about this UFC thing, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too. I had a chance to dig in a little deeper about that.
Yeah.
So got some interesting things to talk about, man. I also want to give a shout out to our media guy, Joe Smith, behind the scenes, making us look great.
Yeah, man. What up, Joe?
How was your week, man?
Long. I had my daughter is going to college this fall, which is crazy. So we went through a whole week of just waiting for college acceptance and rejections and just that whole experience, right? So it's been great. Shout out Big Flex. She'll kill me if I tell people where the schools that she's deciding to go, but the school she's deciding to go to is a top 20 school, is ranked 17th in the country. And is, I think, ranked like 5th when it comes to just researches, because so she's an egghead. She's super smart. I'm super proud of her, but she got into a lot of really good schools. So just dealing with that has been a lot of fun, but obviously, just all the feels of having a kid going to college, right?
Absolutely.
And your kids are nowhere near college, but you have a brand new baby that almost feels the same to me. All right. So what is that like? You going all over speaking, but then you got to come home to a 5-year-old now, and how many months now?
2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah,
to that point, to give you an example, like a couple weeks ago, I had a speaking engagement down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to Sanika for that.
Shout out.
That 8-hour trip turned into a 12-hour trip.
Oh, wow.
To give you one example of what it's like dealing with a 5-year-old. And at that time, he was 5 weeks. I was on a board call with the VC fund trying to make decisions on making an investment in a couple companies. And my son decided he had to use the bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And so we had to pull over, and I'm on Zoom with my earpods in, and I hated it. We in the McDonald's restroom of all places. That's the only place that we can find, because he had to use the restroom.
Wow.
And I'm like, hey, hold on, please. And he up here say, Pedro, and I'm like, and this is my first board meeting with them.
Oh, no.
And then we get all that settled, hop back in the car. Moments later, the newborn says, "Look, my turn," and goes in the seat.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And I know I felt like a bad parent for that moment. I said, "Look, we ain't stopping again. At least for enough. You gonna have to sit in that for a little bit longer."
No.
But it's been a blessing, because they're miracle babies, both of them. We were told that we can't have but I will say too, it's been challenged in a sense of organization of life, the balance of work and family. I have not cracked that code. Up early, sleeping late, and just a random stop and go. So if anyone figured out the secret sauce to that,
somebody write the book.
Yeah,
right?
please do. Please do.
Write the book. But I think it's funny. So I'll be there with you in a couple months. But having a 3-year-old, an 18-year-old, and now it'll be a newborn this summer, I'm trying to wrap my mind around what that looks like, because I think I have a hold on it. I think, but man, newborns are something different.
They command attention.
It's something different, especially when you're an entrepreneur. Because as you know, our schedules are not always set, right?
Exactly.
So, I think that's interesting. So it's funny. Something else that I wanted to talk to you about on the last episode that I seen, and I know you said you didn't hear about, was the trial with Gwyneth Paltrow. So she was in a ski accident like 3 years ago, and I thought it was interesting because I guess this is a celebrity norm. Like Taylor Swift did the same thing, where you kind of countersue for $1. So she was being sued for $300,000 because the gentleman, I forget his name, Sanderson, basically said that she was at fault, and he had it messed up his quiet life. He said he couldn't ski anymore. I think he broke some stuff. Like it was a bad jump. And so he's $300,000 he wanted. He lost this case though. So like the first thing I started thinking about, I was just like, man, that's a bad investment. Like, is it worth it? Do you think it's worth it? $300,000 to sue the celebrity, is high profile case that is going to be high profile, right? And if you won, you would only got $300,000. A part of me was just like, I know it's a different kind of investment, but is that a worthwhile investment?
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't have took that shot. I would have just been like, what?
Yeah. I probably would have left that. You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, I mean, I'm not sure what the legal fees are, but
they're crazy. Gwyneth Paltrow, she got a whole legal team.
Oh yeah.
One lawyer.
So you have to have a top tier firm. This ain't your Uncle Sam around the corner doing this. This is a top tier firm, and their bills are hefty. Yeah. So I mean, I don't have no idea what he spent, but that was a hefty bill to only get 300 if he were to win. Yeah. I would at least added a zero to that.
I would have been like, yo,
because that's a life changer. At least add a zero to it. You know what I mean? At least make it worth it. Like, because then you can also have a conversation and say, yeah, I tried to get $3 million to it. Yep. People say, you know what? I can understand you better. Right. But now you're saying 300. It's like
300,000.
Really? That's it, bro? Yeah. Like you can't even barely buy a house right now at 300.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. He was just like, it wasn't worth it. I was like, you think?
Yeah.
like, sir. But yeah, that was pretty solid.
Look, his legal team said it was worth it,
right?
Because they got paid.
They got paid.
They got paid.
They probably put a battery in his back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. High profile. They get to be a part of this thing with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
Get me in that all day long. But I thought that was interesting, and you was the first person I thought about. Just like, I know it's a different kind of investment, but like we talked about in the last episode, suing someone is an investment too.
It's
an investment of time.
It's an
investment of your money, and then you just never know which way it's going to go.
It is. To that point. So dealing with startup companies too. Sometimes you have patents, and people have patents for to protect the intellectual property, all that. But the reality is, you can still be sued. And even though you have a case, when you're an early stage startup, the question will be, is it worth it to even defend that?
Wow.
It happens a lot on Amazon. When people start putting products on Amazon, I think actually, out of one company I'm working with right now, she actually got $20K out of this deal because someone was basically infringing on her IP of her product. And Amazon actually worked out. They got like a new, I forget what it's called, but it's a new program to help, because what's happening is they see a lot of that. Yeah. People create a product, and then you get the copycats right behind them, just duplicate it and give like a extreme discount on the price, right? And just undercut you tremendously. Wow. And so, but that is a hard question to ask, because when you're building your business, even though you see someone that's infringing on your intellectual property, you got to decide, am I going to take what I got in my bank right now to keep growing the business? Right. Or even though you can win, you still got to spend the money to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you hear about that thing? I think this was last year. I forget. It was like this really popular designer, and his sneakers looked very much like Air Force One with stars.
I think I did hear about that.
Right? And then people got mad at Nike for basically suing. And they're just like, yo, like, how do you pick? So you just reminded me of that, because picking and choosing, like, Nike obviously can afford to sue anybody, but it's kind of like, why? You know what I mean? It's like, is it worth it? So to your point, Nike must have felt like, nah, like, you doing too much. You know what I mean? So this is completely worth suing you.
Yeah.
Right? And this guy, but my thing is, like, if you're that good of a designer, just design something different. That's always my thinking.
That's a great question, because if you call yourself a designer, is that really being a designer if you kind of just mirror something that you see and add a little swoop somewhere else,
right. Or
you make an upside down swoop. You say, here you go.
Right.
And call them Ikes or something.
Yeah. I just think that's crazy. And I didn't know about the Amazon thing, so that's a little scary.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
But suing is an investment, and you got to be willing to take that hit. And if you're going to sue somebody for $300,000 and you know their lawyer fees are probably about $300,000, it's it just seemed like a lose-lose. So I was just like, that could have been a take it or leave it, but I feel like you definitely I won't say definitely, because maybe he felt that he was in the right. Maybe he did. Maybe he genuinely felt he was wrong. And apparently he was injured, so he probably just like. But I'm just like, if you all that, sue for a little bit more. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. For the,
and Gwyneth Paltrow got deep pockets. She make more than that on her little.
Oh,
her
exactly.
Perfume,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
That wouldn't adding a zero to that probably wouldn't even like she would have been left that.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know. That reminded me of the Cardi B thing too. When she the girl that's you probably know more about it than me, but she basically lost the other YouTuber.
Yeah, Tasha Cat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she lost big. I think she lost like 3-4 million.
Yeah.
And then she tried to appeal, still lost.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah, 100% wild. But the good thing, I won't say the good thing. If I lost $4 million, I would sink into a hole somewhere and I just poop myself. It would be wild. But apparently she could afford to pay that, and the fact that she still has a thriving page, still doing the same type of stuff, maybe she feels like she can make that back quickly. Who knows? But that's still a lot of money to lose, right?
It
so
is.
Speaking of which, let's get into our take it or leave it segment. So Lachlan Murdoch, for people who don't know who that is, he's the CEO. He's a CEO of corporate Fox, and they recently bought Tubi, I think last year, maybe for like $400 million or something like that. Most recently, he's been getting offers for the streaming service for upwards of $2 billion for the Fox streamer, but he turned it down. So you bought this streaming service called Tubi for $200 million, $400 million, something to that effect. People want to buy it for $2 billion.
2 years later, too.
2 years later.
Yeah.
Or maybe less than 2 years later. Would you take it or leave it?
I mean, I'm jumping on that. You know what I mean? Because, I'm around. I know this was not the number they bought it at, but let's just say even if it was $1 billion he bought it, in less than 2 years you doubled your money.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I want to add in that time frame, because that's impressive. But he more than doubled his money within that short window of time.
Yeah.
But if he's rejecting it, he must have something up his sleeve.
That's the exact number is $440 million in 2020. So 3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years. Okay. Okay. Still, and that's still major. Yeah. Major. He must have something up his sleeve. So he's probably going for like because you said they're offering him $2 million. You said $2 billion.
Yeah, $2 billion.
He's probably trying to go for a $10 million. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and it seems like apparently they're talking about, and to your point, maybe they see something. He sees something that they don't. I think like their ad revenue has gone up like 25%, right? So maybe. Yeah. So, but for you, and I guess, and I'm sorry, maybe it's something wrong with me. I was like, it's Tubi. I would have just sold it because it's Tubi. Like, but
I think that's kind of the angle I was coming from too. I would have just sold it too.
Right.
You know, it's Tubi. I was like, what else more can you do with it? But hey, we're not him.
Exactly.
Maybe he got something up his sleeve, but in my head, I'm like, bro, I'm shocked you getting that.
Yeah,
you know,
for Tubi, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like if anybody, and no disrespect, if you ever want to come advertise, please do on the podcast. Do so. But when I see Tubi stuff, I'm like, this is underneath Lifetime movies. You know what I mean? It's like, So I was shocked to see that people unsolicited offers. For
I have
$2 billion.
noticed that even our catalog's starting to change a little bit more. They're starting to integrate. Not necessarily any new original. I mean, they have some. So the original content is still suspect. But what I'm noticing is they're getting some of the
some licenses.
Yeah. Some. I think for example, I think if I remember correctly, I think they did have Lethal Weapon in there. Okay. You can't go wrong with that, right?
No, for sure.
And so what they're doing is trying to go for some old school stuff where maybe it's more affordable.
Got it.
And but we're call a thing a thing. They do the other stuff that can be really suspect. Some of the content pieces. So
100%. Speaking of suspect, so we're gonna get into these credit repair gurus.
Yeah.
What is happening? Yeah,
it's Kev on Stage recently had a post, and basically I'm gonna try to read it real quick just to make sure I am saying it correctly.
Shout out to Kevin on Stage. She just won an NAACP Image Award.
Yes. And I've been following him for some years.
Even though he shouldn't have won, but that's just
so basically so basically this credit guru did a post.
Are we dropping names? Are you giving names?
Drop a name.
Okay.
Maybe not. Yeah. But if you go to his Instagram, you will see who I'm referring to.
So just for our viewers who are listening to this podcast, Pedro has his phone out and he's on his person's page, and I can't see it, or I will read the title for you. But so he's playing a video right now. Are you gonna play the whole video?
Well, I was just gonna read it because probably the audio will probably crappy.
Okay.
So basically, her post says you can literally start your LLC, get your EIN, and legally walk into a bank to get $30K without showing any documentation. Then use the funds to start passive income streams. Let me show you how. And Kevin on stage basically goes on his rant and he says, "Man, you cannot do that unless you're robbing the bank." I'm paraphrasing, kind of simplifying it, but and the thing is that it's frustrating, especially for me being a person that funds businesses.
Right.
Is that, well, first we know that Black and brown businesses struggle to access capital. 100%. That's a fact. You know what I mean? But the downside is that a lot of these credit gurus, they're just trying to get a check and not really help these businesses. Work with a lot of companies. A lot of these companies don't even need the funding. I saw one credit guru say they were doing a live like they normally do to kind of feed their courses, you know what I mean, to get leads for the courses. And one guy said, yeah, all you got to do is do something similar to this, get your EIN, and boom, you got $50K in the bank, and boom, you got your ROI right there. I'm like, sir, that's not an ROI. That's debt. You got to pay that back. And people forget that. Yeah. Like, you walk into a bank, get $30K, but what are you going to use it on? Yeah. You going to just get $30K for the sake of that? Next month, you got a bill in the mail. Who paying that bill?
Right.
Who paying that bill? So I feel like it's really hurting our community because for a lot of the entrepreneurs who may not know, may not be that well informed when it comes to raising capital, it is predatory. And it's simply to just get them to sign up for a course or get them to buy something. And then now, even if they are able to get that, right, let's just say they do get that $30K. Again, who's paying that bill? Now, these entrepreneurs are in more debt. They are they have $30,000 in debt, and the product that they have, they might not even be doing $30,000 in revenue yet.
Right. How about that?
Right. You know what I mean? And so my thing is like, if I can give you a tip, first figure out what type of business you have, and do you even need the money? Number one. Most companies probably don't even need the money. I mean, they might need some funding eventually, but in a lot of cases, they don't. Sometimes it's just a matter of maybe you should be more resourceful. Maybe you should focus on better marketing. We talked about celebrities the last episode, right? Maybe it's a matter of strategizing, setting yourself up to really scale, and then maybe using funding to do certain things. But it's not always about how can I get you the bag, as they call it, which I don't even count that as a bag because it's debt. It's money that you owe. You know what I mean? So that's all that's doing is putting us more and more in debt.
Yeah. Do you have any ways of vetting them? Because there's a lot of them, and social media doesn't help. So it's flooded with credit gurus, credit repair gurus. What is your vetting system for ones? Because obviously there's probably some legit ones, right?
Yeah.
How would you say to vet them?
Personally, my whole thing is, now this might be go against the grain. I say you probably don't need any of them. You know, I know I'm probably going to catch some heat with that. Don't get me wrong. I understand there is some need for credit repair. Don't get me wrong. But I even saw on Walmart one day, they had some kind of billboard go by on their cash thing. They say never pay up front for any credit repair. And there's nonprofits around various communities that help focus on credit repair. And I'm going to assume most of them probably do it for free. And another way for credit repair is just pay the bill. I mean, I know it sounds easier said than done, but just figure out a game plan, which might mean maybe you don't go on vacation for the next 2 or 3 years, right? Take some extra, or maybe get a second job to kind of help pay down that debt or whatever it is, right? I think that a lot of people who look to these gurus sometimes as a savior for their situation. And and another question I would have is, Well, you said, how do you vet? I mean, you can't really vet it like this, but a question I would ask: what's your personal credit score? You say you can repair mine, but is yours 800?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's on your situation?
Right.
You know.
Right.
So if yours is not perfect, like, how are you helping me?
Mm-hmm.
Because
that happened before, and I probably shouldn't say any names because I've ran this into the hole already. But there was a very popular young lady and now husband in Philadelphia who was doing something like that. But me and her now husband lived in the same apartment complex, and he had an eviction notice. So and somebody who used to be on our team came out and talked about how their credit, he had to help them with their credit. Their credit was jacked, but they were selling these courses on how to do the same thing. So yeah, I mean
there has been other cases too.
Yeah.
In addition to that person, I've seen some other situations where cops came in and took people down.
Yeah.
I would I think my first thing is just question if it seems like I've even seen peers start promoting credit repair.
Wow.
And I'm like, you sure about that? You know what I mean? You sure about that?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I know you personally. I'm like, you sure about that?
Right.
And so, but the reality is, if you see a lot of people promoting that or promoting getting the bag by getting all these forms of debt, you know, let that be your sign of a red flag. Take a step back and just look at yourself personally. Like, do you really even need that?
Yeah.
Right. The reason why I'm saying that too, because I was working with a lender. There's a it's called the acronym is CDFI, and I think it stands for Community Development Financial Institutions. I think that's the full name. In every state, there's at least one or two. Mm-hmm. These are nonprofit organizations that lend to more underrepresented communities, whether it's for homes, whether for business loans, etc. And I know there's one where I come from out of Delaware, and they were talking about, like, they do have a minimum credit score that they would like to see. Sure. However, they don't really hold that over someone's head. Right. They like to know what's the picture behind it, or like what happened, right, and get some more context. And they would like to see how that can be fixed or mended or whatever. And if everything else checks out, they can possibly give you a loan.
Nice.
And so the reason why I'm bring that out is because those people do proper due diligence on the entrepreneur just to make sure it is a good, sound business. Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying it's not always about a hack of how to get funding. Just get the right type of funding. Yep. First, start with a good idea and decide if that idea even needs the capital. Yeah. And then just self-fund, bootstrap, and then from there, if you want to get external capital, plot it out strategically. Yeah,
and now, I'll say this, and we can put a button on it. I think the first thing I do when I see people like that, I go check their LinkedIn. I go check, what reputable people are around you? Who have you worked with? I think that's a great way of vetting people, because we have a lot of scammers out here doing things. And the last thing, if a person makes their money basically on selling you something that's not tangible, that's a red flag to me. Like, if their whole business to sell you on how good they are at something, I feel like that's a red flag, right? So,
absolutely.
Things like that, I think we got to be mindful for.
Absolutely.
Because it's extremely predatory. It's like black profiteers, and it's the wild, wild west out there.
Yeah, it is, and it's sad because you mentioned it before about advancing our community.
Facts.
And so, with that being said, just be, for all those entrepreneurs out there, as lenders, investors do due diligence on you, do due diligence on the person who's getting into your finances. Yep. Do due diligence on the lenders, the investors, the other gurus that you might be researching. Do due diligence on all those individuals. You have the right to, because it's your money, it's your business, everything. So just remember that, man. And I think you'll do amazing just doing off of that.
Yeah, love that. Love that. So tell the kids where they can find you at, Pedro.
Yes. Again, thank you so much for supporting earninterest.com, earn interest on Instagram. You can also follow me personally, Pedro_Moore on Instagram, Twitter, Pedro Moore. And remember, always to make friends with money. Peace out.